Well, good morning, MACPA members. Welcome or welcome back to our town halls. I am Jackie Brown. I'm MACPA CEO, and that is new since we were last together. And we'll talk about that change, but the town hall series is new too. So every month, 1 hour around themes that we think will be of interest to our members, valuable. Let me say up front for this one especially, although this is a legislative focus for sure, and there has certainly been a ton of tax issues and implications, and we know that the impact it's having on you. And we won't be able to address in this hour any technical questions having to do with tax, but we really urge you to join our Connect communities, which are free for members on our website. And that's where you're going to find all the most up-to-date. That's where we post the most up-to-date information we have. That's where you learn from your colleagues too, what they're hearing. So welcome. Good morning. Let's start with who's in this virtual room with us. I know we have over 350 people today. And as I was scrolling through the list, I saw past chairs and board members and committee members and champions of MACPA, and I can't see you here, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you. So we'd love to start tracking some of our first timers and get regular attendee rates too. So Becca has some polls. If you'll, Becca, open those up for us and talk through what they are and how to do it for first timers.
Sure. So if this is your first time, we love to use macpa.cnf.io to both have you ask questions and answer some polls so you can get an idea of the things that are most important to you, our members. So if you use that URL right there, macpa.cnf.io, you can hold your phone up to that QR code. That will open it on your phone if you want to answer that way. Or also in your materials link right below this video, you can click that link, it will open another tab. We've had some polls open already, but I'm going to do it this way, so it might lock some of them for a second, but looks like we have a pretty wide range of folks in different areas, and shows our membership. Just so you know, our membership from a holistic standpoint is about half in public accounting and half in corporate government and not-for-profit education. So interesting dynamics and lots of resources for those folks. So looks like you guys are well representing our entire membership. And we also like to see who is on the town halls in terms of your position or level at work. And it looks like we have a majority at that manager up to C-suite or sole practitioner level, which would of course be C-suite as well. So we'll leave that open. And then the last thing that we wanted to add is who is new to these town hall experiences, who is a regular attender. It looks like most of you are a regular, but we do have about 16% that this is your first one. So a special welcome to you all. With that, I'll leave those polls open, and there's Q&A on there as well if you wanted to start asking some questions, but I'll move back to the presentation and let Jackie continue.
Yeah, so let me talk about some things that are new. So new February 1st, I became CEO of MACPA. Just so you know, I've been around for a pretty long time through lots of different positions. And so I hope I know many or will get to know most of you. So that was new February 1st, but next slide, there we go. February 1st, Tom Hood, who I know you all know, joined AICPA as their Vice President of Business Engagement and Growth. And we are super proud and excited for him. And he also graciously accepted to be chair of our Legislative Executive Committee. So we're excited to have him on this town hall in that position as chair of our Legislative Executive Committee. He's going to bring you all the updates, so many of them. Next slide. But here's something that won't change. This is our commitment to you, leading and transforming our profession Maryland first to make a positive impact. So The focus of this town hall series is on that protect part, right? We've been watching and really working on your behalf in the state and federal fronts. So that's what this town hall is going to be about. The connect part, I'm going to point you back to in the chaos of all this legislative things, the way you can connect and get answers to those things are in our Connect platform on our website. So connect you to each other, to answers, to collaborations that will help you be more successful in your careers, your companies, your firms, protect the legislative, and of course, achieve those things in your career. Next slide. So this is our board of directors. This is your leadership. Our executive committee, Avenat Blanding is our chair, and I saw a bunch of you board members and executive committees on the town hall. Fantastic board, diverse in every sense. I encourage you to come to our annual meeting on June 18th. You'll get to see them all there. Lexi Kessler will take over as chair of MACPA. She's a partner with Aronson. And we have some new board members joining us too, representing small firm, government, large firm consulting. So I'll also add, if you're ever interested in being on our board, or you have someone you'd like to nominate to be on our board, I would really love to talk to you about that. So anyway, super proud of our board. And next slide. This is the team I work with every single day, and could never have said yes to this role without this group of people on our leadership team. We have a whole team of 17, by the way. But this is a slide that I like to introduce our CFO, Skip Falacco. Bill Sheridan's on this call. You're going to hear from him. He's our Chief Communications Officer. Controller, Laura Swan, also a CPA. Dee Sullivan, who's making all this work today, our Director of Learning. Becca, also a CPA. Mary Beth Halpern is the behind the scenes legislative technical services. She's amazing. I know if you've met her, you think the same thing. And then our marketing and technology support, Blue Ocean Ideas. So that's the group that stands behind us. And then this, I'm going to flip back to Becca, because these are our 100% member organizations that we're also incredibly grateful for.
Yeah, this is our group of people that really help us stand, especially in the legislative in Annapolis, with this grassroots of our membership. That's how we get a lot of these big lifts done in Annapolis. And so if you don't see your organization, this isn't just for firms, this is any organization on this list, and you have 5 or more eligible members, please reach out to us, and we want to get you included on this list. There's some special perks for people that are part of this list, and it really is kind of our key grassroots that we're able to achieve. And the next slide is about our champion program. And so we have a kind of our junior board, if you will, a group of really fantastic young professionals, emerging leaders in our profession that we're engaging in a unique way with our champion program. I do updates with them monthly to kind of give them the landscape of what's going on in our profession, as well as what's going on at the MACPA and how they can support us. So it's not a big ask, not a huge time commitment, but something that if you have an emerging leader that you really want to get involved in the association, please contact me. We would love to kind of add them to this program. And next, I'm going to flip it to Bill, our Chief Communications Officer, to talk to you about our accounting ecosystem here.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. So as you all hopefully know by now, our focus at the MACPA is on helping you all, our members and Maryland CPAs, become more future ready by keeping an eye on the trends that are impacting the profession and your clients. And a huge part of that mission is our relationship with our preferred providers. So these are organizations who are really, we look at them as more than just sponsors. They're true partners, right? They're thought leaders in the spaces in which they work. And they're offering solutions that we believe are really important resources that are going to help make y'all, a little bit more future ready, right? So we encourage you, get to know them. Believe me, they want to get to know you because they want to help. Truly, the more I talk to these folks, the more I understand that they just really want to help. They want to help your clients. They want to help this profession, and we think that they're equipped to do that. So you can find out more about them on our website or by asking us. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction with regard to any of the resources that our preferred providers can provide for you. All right, so we've also been, hopefully you're aware of this as well, over the last few years, we've been doing some really close kind of shoulder-to-shoulder research and work with a world-renowned futurist by the name of Daniel Burrus. Daniel likes to say that anticipation is really the key competency for us going forward, learning to spot future trends early, identify them, and in turn identifying the opportunities that they offer. And so we've spent some time working with Daniel to try to identify what we call hard trends. These are what Dan likes to call future facts. They're going to happen whether we like them or not. And he has kind of lumped them into three buckets, three hard trend categories for the future of this profession. They are technology, which is going to continue to advance at an exponential pace. They're demographics, shifts in generations and the way they work, and the number of people in each generation that are representing this profession. And then finally, government regulations and standards, which is, I'm sure you'll agree, is continues to get more complex and onerous as time goes on. So as we were putting together the schedule for these town hall meetings going forward this year, we thought, let's focus in on these hard trends and spend some time doing a little bit deeper dive into each one of them and what they mean. So today's town hall meeting is all about government regulations and standards and what's been going on. And it's timely because, you know, the General Assembly just wrapped up their 2021 session. There's a lot of things going on the federal front that we want to talk with you about today. So that's where our focus is going to be today. And with that, we'll turn it back over to, who are we turning it back over to now?
I'll take this one. This is just quickly our agenda today. Like Bill said, legislative, what's going on in state, federal, back to the office. Notice we didn't say back to work because I think we've all been working pretty hard, even if we're not in the office. So we're going to talk to all back to office and what everybody's doing, and do some polling around that too. We'll be interested to see where you and your team is on that. And then we'll have some save the dates at the end. Next slide will introduce our Legislative Executive Committee. Their first meeting is May 11th, but these are folks that have volunteered in the middle of all the craziness to say, yeah, I want to be a part of this. I want to step up. Some of them I know are very familiar to you, maybe like Alan DeLeon. Karen Cirillo has been amazing. If you are in the Connect platform, you'll see her in there really keeping you up to date with what she knows. And she is very connected in Annapolis. So really super grateful for her. Avenette Blanding, Mark Sissel, Jeff Rosen, Harold Moan, and Jim Martinko is a new one too. So their first meeting's May 11th. Mary Beth Halpern's the liaison, but as I said, the chair of the Legislative Executive Committee is Tom Hood, and we're really, really glad to welcome him back to this town hall to lead us through it. So Tom, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, well, it's great to be here with all of you again. And this past Monday marked the 121st General Assembly. Or no, actually it was our 121st year in the General Assembly and the General Assembly's 441st year. To give you a little sense of Maryland history, it's called Sine Die, which is to convene another time in Latin. And it's the official closure of legislative sessions. And in Maryland, it's 90 days. So it started back in mid-January. And at midnight, you can see that's the Senate chamber on the left. That was in 2019. And usually Mary Beth Halpern and I are up in the balcony, like on the right side or the left side, where those right next to those balloons, watching, looking down on the Senate and watching the proceedings in case we have, you know, significant bills there at play. Anyhow, the balloons fall down, the confetti, and when the clock strikes midnight, whatever bills have not been voted on, they die and have to go reintroduced in the next year. So now last year, it's funny if you think about the timeline, we were in the midst of defeating sales tax on services, which we had just done. And this is a time frame of about March the 13th or 15th. No, actually, it was March 15th. It was corporate tax due date. And they basically disbanded the General Assembly because of COVID. So they all adjourned early, 19 days early. First time since the Civil War that had ever happened in the state of Maryland, to give you the significance of it. And when they left, they didn't come back. I mean, they came back this year in a very different form. As you can see on the right-hand side, they put in the protective screens. They limited access to legislators. Well, certainly we weren't allowed to go down and testify in person. Everything was done via Zoom in a very limited format. And I would love to ask the question, Becca, how many of you participated in our CPA Day this year? Because it was a record. 600 of you came, and yeah, it was probably one of the best ever. We had both presiding officers, Senate President Bill Ferguson and Speaker of the House Adrian Jones. We had the Budget and Tax Committee Chair of the Senate, Guy Gazzoni, Vice Chair of Senate Finance, a CPA member, Brian Feldman. It was an incredible event. And wow, thank you all. 56%, 58, it's going up. Somewhere around 56 to 60% of you were there with us. You can mark this date down. We've already scheduled next year, January 20th, 2022. So put that on your calendar. And for those of you who can't make it, hopefully you can next year. We're still looking at what we might do from a format standpoint, but we're going to need you regardless. And that's the reason we're successful down in Annapolis. All right, let's go back to our slides. So again, different year, but here's what we have. We start with an agenda that many of you voted on in prior town halls. We will continue this tradition as we see issues come up. We also always have a couple of what we call evergreen issues, but we had 5 going into this session. We ended up with 8, and we actually reviewed, I think it was about 100 bills as we went through this 90-day session. So it was, again, very active year. Obviously, we were worried about employer liability, and there was a bill, at least proffered in the pre-session before Economic Matters Committee, and we had introduced a proactive bill to give employers limited liability that we worked on with the Business Coalition that we worked on last year. And that bill did not get out of committee, so that didn't go anywhere, but we think that bill helped stop this bill from getting introduced. So there was no extra employer liability. We would say we have a back to work guide. We should probably send that out in the follow-up. But if you follow the governor's back to work, which is what our guide came from, you will probably prevent any employer liability for people that might get sick or customers that might get sick in your premises. Sales tax on professional services, that's what we defeated heartily last year, and this one was not introduced this year. Onerous data privacy, not that we oppose data privacy, but we worry about access to financial information because that's often what gets an unintended consequence of this legislation. It's happened before. Anyhow, that did not get introduced this year. We would expect that could come back next year. Support the technical correction to the prior year Senate Bill 523. This was passed through entity legislation for tax, and we actually got that corrected. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's in a separate bill, and another piece of it was actually in the digital product bill. But anyhow, we got that fixed. And anti-licensing legislation, this has been an ongoing trend. Talking to the AICPA, they have about 40 states with active legislation. We've kept it out of Maryland for the past few years. And but it does get closer every year. I know it's in Ohio, it was in West Virginia, along with a whole bunch of other things. But right now it's not in. We've worked really hard with the Department of Labor and the State Board of Accountancy to make sure they're in line with us, and they are. So we think we'll be good as that goes into the future. Now, here's the 3 surprises that are causing some extra challenges for many of you, or certainly many of you that are involved in tax. Last year, there was a kind of groundbreaking digital product tax and digital advertising tax from Maryland. Both of those bills passed the legislature, and then the governor vetoed them. And when the governor vetoes a bill, it goes to the beginning of the next session for potential override. Well, in this case, the legislature overrode both of those bills. And when they get overridden, they get implemented, I think, in like 30 days. So in this case, this was immediately implemented. Actually, the comptroller interpreted it for implementation, and that's a tax advice memo that went out. And that, like, they swept in just about everything. Enterprise software. There was obviously digital downloads, any software that you're downloading. They swept in online learning from nonprofits like us, your CPE that you're doing electronically. And we went to work immediately to try to get amendments. We reached out to the president of the Senate, Bill Ferguson, asked for his help in the weaning hours. Anyhow, we got a couple of major amendments, and you've seen now, I think we're on the 3rd iteration of the digital tax tips. Let me look this up so I don't get it wrong. I think we have a slide that will cover it. Anyhow, the point is that's still in a bit of flux. It's yet to be signed by the governor, this next version that's coming through, or he could veto it. We don't expect that. Or he could do nothing, in which case it would be implemented 30 days after the end of this session. So we'll stay tuned for the ultimate finality of that. But what we think now is online learning that's on demand will be taxable. Live learning like this, Zoom, will not be taxable. And that's going to be true for any organization, including nonprofits, but any product sales or digital brochures or any of those kind of things. So it's pretty intensive. And this is something that they've been, talking about. Lots of other states have already done it. We were lucky to kind of hold them off for a while, but this is what we got, right? So this is kind of the piece here. Let me talk about a couple key points here. So there's a tax tip number 29. It was posted in our Connect channel. That we thought was the final document. It's not. It's still a work in progress. So we're trying to get that ultimately finalized. Karen Cirillo, who Jackie mentioned, she's on our tax legislative committee. She's been on our board of directors. Just an amazing professional that we owe so much to for her legislative work in the tax area. Anyhow, her and a dedicated team of our tax experts at MACPA, along with some tax attorneys, are continuing to work with the comptroller to address that. And there's also additional language in the provisions passed in Senate Bill 787, which go back one slide for that, Becca, to just point that out. One more. There we go. Yeah. Senate Bill 787, which is the amendments to the digital product tax. By the way, there was HB 804, a whistleblower reward program. We had to make sure that those programs don't sweep in tax preparers, like CPA firms who are preparing tax for clients, because they actually have done that in other parts of the country. And we're watching that because it could create unintended liability. And we got weighed in on it, and it was defeated. House Bill 495. This was significant because this was the taxation of PPP. If you remember, we had to go to the federal and the state to kind of get that PPP forgiveness excluded from tax, because the IRS came out with an interpretation on that. We were successful at both the federal level and then at the state level, because there's a decoupling, an automatic decoupling of any federal tax legislation that has a $5 million impact on revenue. We had to decouple it so that that PPP forgiveness would be extended through the state. And in fact, we were successful in that regard. So that's what we got in that notion. Let me go to the tax form updates. Here's the, we've worked really hard to try to keep the, you guys have been living through this now for this full year, the beginning of the pandemic to now. uncertainty around a rush to legislate and help provide relief or fix things ends up in a whole lot of unintended consequences where the regulators or the tax officials, federal and state, can't answer the questions until we bring them up. And then suddenly they have to scramble and fix all the technical details. So this is more of the same. So Form 502 LU, which will be the addition, subtraction modifications, we've requested more clarity around that, and we expect to get that made soon. But here's the other thing that you guys probably all encountered on April 15th, is that the software companies have to update all their programs before you can e-file. The tax schema was done by the comptroller, but didn't get to the tax systems in time to have that done. So you probably experienced rejections or error codes or all those other things, and they're actively fixing that as we go right now. So unfortunately, you guys got a few more headaches if you're trying to prepare all those taxes. Okay. That's enough. Are there any big questions? I don't know that I can answer a lot of those technical tax questions, but any questions popping in that we need to know about?
No questions so far. So,
all right. That's probably because you're all, listen, you are the heroes. You've been on the front lines of this financial crisis from the minute this pandemic started and dealing with massive uncertainty. And so we certainly get that. All right, Becca, let's keep going.
Right, so this is I talked about our 100% member organizations and our grassroots membership as a key to what we do in Annapolis. The other thing that is key to doing that is our PAC. So our PAC is kind of at a historic low. So I'd encourage you, if you're able to give, we have the link there. We also have the link in your materials. And Key Persons is the other program that we have. So if you have a relationship with a legislator, make us aware of that. We don't pester you a whole lot or take advantage of that a whole lot, but those key relationships have been significant. Even this year, we used a key relationship with Senator Cardin in the US Senate to get some things done. So let us know if, and email Mary Beth Halpern about that. And then that's just a reminder about our PAC and the importance that it plays in what we're able to do in Annapolis as well.
And we do, yeah, we definitely need some money there. And it's the only legal way we can give money to a legislator and talk about the issues. So it's one of the ways we get access when we go down to meet with them. And right now, starting this week, we're seeing tons and tons of fundraising requests already. All right, so back to this this year. What a strange year it has been. And interestingly enough, this is the time frame of what we've all lived through. And it, all the way back there to March 13th is when the federal declaration of emergency started with this COVID thing. And we immediately, that's when we finished the legislature on March 15th. And then we started seeing this phenomena where governors were beginning to shut down all businesses in their state, except for essential workers, which at that point, most deemed to think it was, defense, police, fire, and emergency and health personnel. Although there's a Department of Homeland Security notion that defined finance and accounting as an essential workforce. So we found that out. And I remember we wrote to the governor on the Saturday before he shut down our state and requested essential worker status for all the finance and accounting people, companies as well as firms. And we were granted that literally within hours on that Saturday. He then issued the order on Monday, and we were able to get letters for all of you to be able to use if you needed to go into the office, because at some point they were using state troopers to check on that over those first couple of weeks. At any rate, that ultimately led to us being prioritized in the vaccination. I mean, we didn't get moved up a lot, but we did get moved up into stage 2. And so we could get in line, so to speak, to get our vaccinations. Of course, since then, I think Becca's going to talk more about that. But you guys have all lived through this. Obviously, we're not quite done. You're still implementing this final relief package that just got passed. Obviously, tax season and everything else. But here's what I want you to know. I think Becca talked about it. We do work at the federal, state, and local level, right? Local meaning the State Board of Accountancy, Department of Commerce, right? All those different agencies. And we crossed the federal administrations this year, right? In January, new president, new administration, and yet all the bills continue to move. So having to advocate, and obviously now I'm up at the AICPA, but we've coordinated closely with the AICPA through this entire pandemic, and we will continue to do that. And AICPA relies on states for a lot of the ground game, right? The grassroots side. But it's pretty incredible how much we actually were able to get done, considering all the changes that went on. Like, just imagine all the new relationships with a brand new administration. Anyhow, that's what we're doing. We need to keep doing that. You all to kind of keep getting things clarified for everything you do. But we were regularly corresponding with Treasury, the bankers, chambers of commerce, obviously the both sides of the Congress and both in the state, as well as the administration, right? IRS, et cetera. So it's just been a crazy, crazy year. And it'd be nice if we soon get back to normal, right? All right, next slide. So putting this in context, I was on a AICPA town hall about maybe a week or two ago, and this was one of the things they researched. Like, just think about this, right? $7 trillion in this past year. It's mind-boggling, and I know many of us are thinking about, like, how are we going to pay for it, but it dwarfs anything else, including World War II, where 3 trillion more than that, and the mission to Mars is just a little tiny bucket compared to what we've done with this relief program. So next one. And this is the kind of next piece, right? We have three new changes. I mean, PPP did get updates, and obviously you can see now they've started to talk about these new programs, right? So the SVOG is getting a lot of attention. I know they opened it up on time and it didn't work. So that's another one of those phenomena, right? When the SBA opened up that window. So that's the special, shuttered venue operating grants. That's what SVOG means. EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and you can see that they've extended those. So some of your clients that might continue to need relief, you should be thinking about it. And now we're waiting for the restaurant fund to open. Keep in mind, they expect the funds to run out on both the SVOGs and the restaurant funds very quickly. And restaurant fund has a window where they're going to start with preferred minority and women-owned businesses for, I think, the first maybe 30 days, and then everyone else will get in. But you're going to want to make sure you're ready if you have clients or if you're running a business that's got restaurants or shuttered venues. So that's the kind of update, high level, on the latest things that are happening with this PPP piece. And then the other one I want to just give you a warning on is lots of fraud has been committed on all of this. No surprise when that much money's involved. And so Department of Justice is going to look for anything that they think are fraudulent activities with PPP. And you're also, we started thinking about this, right? If nonprofits and governments who receive more than, I think it was 750,000, is that right? I'm looking at Becca or Bill, I think that's the number. If they got more than $750,000, then they're subject to single audit oversight, so by the OMB. So that's for nonprofits and government, local, state and local governments that might have gotten relief money in any source from the federal government. They could be subject to that yellow book scrutiny when they get into their single audits. I think that's, let's see, next slide.
So this is just a reminder. We had requests back on April 1st. Tony Nitty, who is kind of an amazing national thought leader in tax, joined us to talk through the American Rescue Plan. And then there were some questions about some other stuff that he answered as well. We had requests to rebroadcast that again. So that is being rebroadcast again, complimentary at today at noon. So you have an opportunity for 2 complimentary CPE hours today if you'd like to join that. And then this is what we are continuing to look for and be aware of what's going on next, because unfortunately it's not over yet, right? So one slide you see there was from Tony's presentation, just seeing what he's seeing in terms of targeted tax increase to pay for that large infrastructure and climate change legislation that we're seeing out of the Biden administration, and as well as some ways that they might be going about to pay for that. We don't expect that, I think, until summer, however. And then the AICPA town hall slide there, the things they're watching, that 2.3 trillion infrastructure, congressional oversight, and then that PPP Schedule C retroactive. So those are things that we're continuing to watch. And with that, I'll pause for a second just to make sure that we don't have any questions that we should answer. I think we've been in there answering them all. I do see a note, I believe I see a /KS, so I'm thinking maybe that's from our legislative guru, Karen Cirillo. So thank you, Karen, for putting that information in there. If you're not a part of our Connect communities, especially our state and federal groups, I cannot urge you enough to be part of that. Just fantastic information and collaboration. I got to speak with actually 3 different groups of accounting students this week. And in each of them, I ended my presentation with, yeah, there's a lot of complexity and you're entering a profession that is constantly changing. But I have good news, and that is you're entering a diverse and really wonderful profession with professionals that help each other. I can tell you from being on the managing partner meetings to seeing the Connect communities, we have a wonderful group of members that, you know, are technically in some ways competitors, but yet are supporting one another. And that's how we get through this complexity and this ever-changing environment that we are in, is through associations. So as somebody that's in charge of membership here, I would also then urge you to, if you know somebody that isn't a member that could, you know, benefit from this community, please refer them. I think you'd be surprised by some people that just don't realize they're not a member sometimes. So with that, not seeing any other questions we should address, I'll talk about the vaccine rollout. So as Tom mentioned, we were able to secure kind of that essential worker status right before the Maryland shut down in March. That again was part of that Department of Defense classification that came out, actually started from September 11th. That got us in Group 2C for the vaccine rollout. And then Governor Hogan, I guess maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, announced kind of a quickening of the vaccine rollout. And so now we're actually technically in stage 3, which means that anybody over the age of 16 is now eligible for the vaccine. You'll see I circled there that groups that were in earlier prioritized segments. So that would include us, and that 2C, where you can see financial services is listed, are going to be prioritized. So 2 links that you should be aware of if you are not yet vaccinated and want to be. Pre-register at that onestop.maryland.gov/pre-registration, and then check frequently massvax.maryland.gov. Those are the mass vaccination sites that I know are doing tremendous work to get lots of people vaccinated very fast. If you're in the DC region, just this week, April 12th, they also opened up to those residents age 16 and older as well. So we've seen a lot of conversation about what this back to the office might look like, what people are comfortable about. And we've also seen mass vaccinations, and we're also seeing increases in our positivity rate as well. So lots of uncertainty, but we thought we'd talk through some of the trends that we're seeing and ask some questions of you, because I think sometimes the most helpful thing is just to see what other people are thinking and doing. So I'm going to open up some polls for you now. And these polls are written to go along with a report that was released in January of 2021 from PwC in their remote back to work study. So let's see. So when do you see yourself returning? Oh, actually, this is a question we wanted to ask about our own budgeting process and planning for events. I will tell you right now, we are looking at the fall to return to some events in person, both hybrid, so have an online option as well. But we thought we would check this to see, where you are. And we'll continue to ask this because we know a significant portion there, I see 35% right now, oh, it's moving a little bit, is still unsure. And we completely understand that. And especially as we see kind of spikes in different areas continuing, we will continue to monitor that and make sure that we keep everyone safe. Of course, that's our priority. I'm going to move to these polls. So the question was, how successful would you say the shift to remote work was in your organization? So it looks like overwhelmingly successful, which is what PwC also saw in their remote work survey, are actually pretty similar numbers there, 71%. So interesting. That is slightly down from when they did the exact same survey in 2020 in June. So interesting numbers there. And then we wanted to ask you about when you would feel more comfortable if you are not yet in the office, but when you feel that you would expect to spend at least 50% of your time back in the office. And I realized I probably needed to add another answer that they didn't have, which is I'm in the office now. Because I know some of our organizations with that essential worker status were in the office and continue to be in the office. But it looks like still a significant portion still unsure when they would be expecting to spend at least 50% of their time in office. What was found in PwC's US remote work survey was that the employees want to return to the office a little more slowly than the employers potentially expect them to. As you can see there, the executive or employer number a little bit higher in all those categories than the employee number. And so that creates all kinds of uncertainty. It creates kind of legal questions about, what can you require? What can you ask? All of those things. So we're looking at potentially next month's town hall, which does have a business and industry focus, but we are thinking we will probably do something around this returning to the office and potentially have a labor expert or lawyer join us to say, what can you do legally? And then we also, the person that helped us with our initial office space is joined with Gensler Research, and she has some great information on setting up offices to be safe and just trends in workplaces as well. So then we asked, or the PwC asked, and I wanted to get which of the following statements best describe how you feel about remote work, right? Has it been great? Is it kind of, there's really no turning back if you're one of those employees that, have enjoyed that and want to continue that environment? Or are you, I want to get back as soon as possible? Or obviously that we never left option as well. So I did add it there, but I forgot to add it in the other one. Looks like, let's see. Going with the flow, business performance is not suffering, will likely increase the level of remote work. And I think that's one thing we've learned through this pandemic as a profession. We are much more resilient than we thought we were, right? Just as in global sense, humans are just much more resilient than we thought we could be, adapt to change. But I think this profession has learned a significant lesson around how fast we can change. Now, we don't always want to do that change so fast and dramatically like we had to do this year, and the complexity with all of that, but we can change. We've learned to use new technologies, and we've learned that remote work in some cases really can work. So I think there's been some really great lessons in this. When we do strategic planning, one of the questions that we ask when we look at history is, what do we want to take with us from the history and what do we want to leave behind? I think those two questions are really fantastic as you look at creating your new back to office plan, or what it looks like to be in person or remote or in your organization, that what do you want to take with you from this past year, and what do we want to leave behind? And the last question is this. We're seeing most people want to still have the option to work from home in some sort of capacity, and maybe not work from home. You know, that WFH kind of changed that WFA, work from anywhere. But for you, how often would you want to work remotely after, you know, this COVID-19 crisis is no longer a concern, if you're allowed to, of course. It looks like most people want to work 2 to 5 days, maybe one day. It's kind of spread out pretty well. The two biggest components is that 2 or 5 days. Interesting. And so what PwC found as well, that there wasn't any consensus for what was the optimal balance of those work from home versus in office days, but basically over half of employees preferred to work remote at least 3 days a week once we're post-pandemic. So that's interesting, and definitely has a change in how we recruit and then how we work going forward post-pandemic. So that was PwC's research. This is that Gensler Research Institute that I mentioned as well. They're seeing the same thing. Over half, 52% of the US workers would prefer some sort of hybrid working model going forward. Interesting enough. And then there's another research, and I'll put all of these in the follow-up email, but they have an interesting trends research looking forward post-pandemic, and they have it broken up by industry type. So obviously, if you're one of our public accounting members, then you have that professional services item there that you can click on and get some more details around that. But we know half of our members are in corporate, government, and not-for-profit. So you could click your area of the profession and see kind of more specific trends they're seeing in terms of office spaces, what they're designed like, and remote versus in-office kind of working. The last thing we want to do is to have you save the date for some events, town halls. As Bill mentioned earlier, and Jackie, we are going to start doing these monthly. When we first saw the first relief packages and all that started, we started doing these like weekly, right? That was a little much, I will say, but it was necessary in that time period. So now we're going to move to a monthly framework, 1 to 2 hours, depending on the month and the topic. Still complimentary CPE. We will also rebroadcast some of those depending on the date and the just how it works out in case people can't visit that one. I know we're rebroadcasting this one in particular, and I believe in 2 weeks. But 5/21 will be our next town hall, and then June 18th, Jackie mentioned, that is our annual meeting. We've got some exciting things, how our board and our team and staff have reimagined what MACPA looks like. In fact, our incoming chair, Lexi Kessler, at our board planning session said, you know, I don't even think this is MACPA 2.0. We're just leaping through to MACPA 3.0. So I'm excited to show you guys some really cool things and how our focus is going to be even greater on members and creating community for you all. 2 weeks from now is our government not-for-profit conference, always a terrific event, and have a lot of resources as part of that event. May 24th through the 27th is our Future CPA Leadership Series. That is an event. It is the virtualized version of our Student Leadership Academy. It is lots of, I think there's 9 sessions throughout that week that students or your CPA candidate members of your staff could join to get updates on the CPA exam. Also some more of those softer success skills, as we like to call them, business communication, things like that. Those events are all free, and some networking opportunity for the students as well. And then on June 28th, we have our next Candid Conversation series. That's going to be on the sponsorship. So why sponsorship, not just mentorship, matters. So what is a sponsor? How do you go about getting a sponsor? How can you be a sponsor? All those things. We're going to follow that event up actually with a speed mentoring kind of collaborative discussion with our mentor community. So we have a mentorship program if you're not aware of that, but we'd invite any member to join us with that conversation. And then finally, I'll let you know, September 24th, we are planning a in-person component, a hybrid event for our Women to Watch Awards. I believe those nominations are going to open today. I think you should get an email today allowing you to go nominate. So if you have a female CPA, either as a client or one of your colleagues that you want to nominate for that award, we certainly would encourage you to do that. I will pause and see if any of my colleagues here have anything else to share, and I will look at the questions to make sure that we've covered everything.
Yep, I just want to add, Women to Watch is going to be that hybrid event in person. We hope to be able to recognize as many of our emerging and experienced leaders as we can, and also obviously back to be safe. We'll have it virtual as well. And the nominations do open today. Please consider that. Woman CPA that you know in your firm, in your company, or a client. It's one of my favorite events, and it's an important one. So any other questions in there, Becca?
I do see some questions about how do you register for the noon event. I see somebody answered that. That should just be on our website. Someone's really missing those in-person events. We're missing seeing you in person too. So we are working hard to be able to bring those back in a safe way for all of you. Those polling results, I can include those. Also include a link to both of those websites and reports. And again, we're kind of thinking about maybe next month's town hall is going to have a focus on that, because I know it is top of mind for so many people.
Yeah, well, I hope this was helpful. We have this saying in the office of when we finish a meeting early, we're going to give you the gift of time. We have given you 1 hour of free CPE. We want to continue to make that valuable and helpful, but we're going to give you the gift of time because I think we finished early, which is a good thing. Yes. Thank you all for being here. We hope to see you again next month. Really hope to see you at the annual meeting on June 18th. And thank you for being a member, and have a great day. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend.
One thing I just saw come in is virtual beach retreat updates. We do have our beach retreat happening. I believe an email went out just this week about it, but I believe it should be up for registration now. We are going to attempt, obviously, just not the same as being at the beach, but we are planning some fun things around that. So check out those programs as well. With that, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully in person soon, but we'll definitely see you next month on 5/21. Thanks so much, guys.